Hi again. Today's date is the 14th of April 2022, and what's prompted me to do this video is some people who watch my videos, they are when I told them that she faked her death, they thought what, I've lost it, or I've been brainwashed, or this and that, and I mean, obviously I was messaging somebody, and obviously sometimes there are some things that I can't explain fully in messages, so I'm gonna do it in a video. So, and another thing I want to talk about, quickly mention, is that the videos I've done on Diana faking her death and taking a different identity, same with Tupac taking a different identity. I should have stressed here that like a lot of other, I want to make it clear there. I'm not saying every single famous person that's died have faked their deaths. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that some of them have faked their deaths. Some of them might mean, say, 10% of famous people, 20% of famous people, or 30% or 40% of famous people. Some I think do get sacrificed and get murdered by the numbers, famous people. Some do, and others, they just fake their deaths and take on a new identity. And so in Tupac's case and Diana's case, they fake their deaths, and from what I've read and researched, I think I want to keep this. I won't go for too long. They play different roles. I've read stuff like Michael Jackson. He possibly faked his death and playing different roles. I mean, this is plausible. I mean, there's not there's not like one reason why they do it. There's multiple reasons. One of them is they're mocking the masses, for one thing, because they are assets of the New World Order. So I'm gonna read this short article, PDF, from Miles Mathis. Miles Mathis, who's an author who has his own website. One thing I want to mention also is that I first came across, I want people to know this, I first came across the idea of faking a death at least 8 years ago, 2014. That's how, and back then I read it from Chris Spivey, who's a London-based researcher. He put it up there. Nobody else at the time put it up there. He did, other than my Mathis possibly. And I read that, and I said no. Now that was my mistake when I first heard about it 8 years ago. That no, she didn't fake her death. That was my mistake. People are assuming that for 20 years I've held this view. That's true. I've held the view she was murdered. I'm not going to deny that, but I did look into it, and I wish I didn't ignore it. I wish I had an open mind and considered the possibility. But thanks to gematria, I can understand now that anytime there's a political activist, whether it's Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, they are agents. They are not there to serve us. The only reason why faking a death sounds plausible to me, I wish 8 years ago I honestly held this view. But we are where we are is because sell some books about her, I mean, writing a book about murder, a conspiracy, sells, and it has on Amazon and other online stores as well, online bookstores as well. Documentaries, again, yeah, it sells. More viewership on television. Talking about it in the media, again, it sells. Her name is... So, without further ado, let's start this up. So I'm going to skip the first part. Okay, that door. Okay, I'll start with his bodyguard. Trevor Rees-Jones, the bodyguard who survived the car crash. He was in the front passenger seat and was later saved by the airbag. I saw that name as a peerage name immediately. This is what he's saying, Mathis. So I followed that clue. But if you look up Trevor Rees-Jones, you'll find not one but two. There is also a billionaire Texas oil and gas man with the exact same name, including the hyphen. He's said to have been 18 years older, but they could have changed the dates. I understand the idea that the reason why their dates, whether it's Tupac or anybody else, are faked, because they are used as part of the ritual to carry out, you know. Okay, basically, if you look at Tupac's life, and you measure his date from the event, like if the event involves, say he was in court or an album sale or, you know, a fake death, his death was fake, they sync up with his birthdays. It's all about faking fake the age, fake the birthdays, the date of births, and sync it up with an event, because they want to do it by the numbers. So you still have children at 18, so the Texan could have been the bodyguard's uncle, cousin, or even father. Since one of British and the plus American, I'll assume cousins for now. They even look somewhat alike with very square faces. The other, Trevor Rees-Jones, has recent ties to the UK, including a grandfather from Wales and a grandmother Holmes, who was secretary for William Lever. Viscount Leverhulme from Cheshire. She's probably related to him, since his wife was a Hulme. We probably have a fudge from Hulme to Holmes, you see. There is not only Freemason, he founded many lodges. So Trevor Rees-Jones has Masonic connections here. If the name Lever looks familiar, it should. He was the founder of Sunlight Soaps, which also links to Lever Brothers in the US, as well as to Unilever, now a huge multinational conglomerate. This is from 2019, by the way. Lever was a groundbreaker in the saturation advertising at the end of the 19th century. He even had Sir Walter Besant working for him, linking us to Annie Besant and the whole Theopsy nest. They were all spooks. Lever was also a billionaire and acted like one, setting up monopolies and then suing those who tried to break them. He won a huge suit against the newspapers after they blew the whistle on his monopoly, though the case may have been manufactured. This is what they do. When you see, I mean, it's like a lot of stories. They just manufacture them. Scandals, political scandals, they're all manufactured. They're just designed to consume the masses, so that they're just constantly bombarded with information and they can't question what's happening. The Texas Rees-Jones is also involved in the Perot Museum in Dallas, which is sold as philanthropy from H. Ross Perot. He ran for president. Rees-Jones and others, but which includes a walloping dose of pro-oil propaganda and science propaganda, including the Big Bang. The Rees-Jones wing also promoted Sherlock Holmes, which we can see now as a red flag, since Rees-Jones was a Holmes or home. That can't be a coincidence. So Rees-Jones appear to learn from his ancestors the valuation of saturation advertising. Anyway, I got the AHA moment pretty quickly after that. So I went to the peerage.com to look up these Rees-Jones. They are listed, but extremely well scrubbed. Only two are listed, and they come out of nowhere and go nowhere. Nothing is known of them, although they are recent. We already see signs of heavy pouring, as we know. The only information that we can tease out is that Rees-Jones was related to the Sandy Lands in one line, and then through the Sterlings, Douglases, Murrays, and Grahams. So they take us to Scotland, not Wales. The name links us to the fake Dublin event. For those who don't know, Dublin was the shooting that took place in Scotland back in '96, I believe. Andy Murray was in that school when it happened. But obviously, I looked that event a bit, and the guy that supposedly did it was a Freemason. Whether it was a fake event, that's a different story. But we do quickly remember the Livingstons, Stuarts, Hamiltons, as well as the last name linking us to Princess Diana. See below, I'll show you why it was closely related to the Hamilton Dukes. So the next thing is to look at the name Rees instead of Rees-Jones. The bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones tells us his father was a Rees, not a Rees-Jones, and refuses to tell us how Rees-Jones picked up the second name. We do find Rees-Jones was born on March 3rd, that is 3-3. Masonry's 33. The Rees baronets are scribbled as well, with the first baronet given no poems. This is unusual. First baronets are normally listed with parents. However, we go through the first baronet's wife, and she's enough to give up the farm here. She was Mary Catherine Dormer, daughter of Lieutenant General Honor James Charlemagne Dormer. You notice he's highlighting these names. I mean, I'm not familiar with some of these surnames and that, but it shows you that what I'm demonstrating you that in order for a cult to occur, they have to be connected to the establishment, and they are clearly. His father was a baron. He became commander-in-chief of the Madras army in 1891. This is talk about his ancestry. His son Charles Dormer, 40th Baron, married Caroline Clifford, daughter of Sir Robert Cavendish Spencer Clifford, 3rd Baronet. Are you finished hopping up and down? Yes, Diana was a Spencer, so that indicates Diana and Trevor and Rees-Jones were cousins. Something I never tell you. Did you hear that? They are cousins. Some will say, oh, maybe Spencer is just his first name, not connected to the Spencer Churchills. No, Sir Clifford's father, Admiral Sir Augustus Clifford, first baronet, married a Townsend, granddaughter of the Marquess Townshend, linking us to the Compton Earls, the Shirleys, the Ferrers, and the Knowlesbury. The Comptons then link us to the Spencer of Suffolk. Clifford himself was a son of William Cavendish, 5th Duke of the Devonshire, and Georgina Spencer, daughter of the first Earl Spencer. In fact, this Earl Spencer has a daughter named Diana Spencer. So we hit the Spencers twice through the Dormers, and we hit the Churchills as well, since Earl Spencer's grandmother was Lady Churchill, daughter of the first Duke. On Marlborough, there are some offline Spencers. So it looks like the bodyguard wasn't really a bodyguard, he was a cousin of Diana Spencer from the peerage. Best guess at this point, he was intelligence, MI5, MI6. I totally agree. These people are agents of the intelligence services. That he crashed the car himself with a couple of bodies from the morgue in the back seat, then hired a Persian coroner to identify the bodies of Diana and Dodie. Nothing simpler. We've seen dozens of times. MI5, MI6. I mean, should have put MI6. Well, I think MI6 is more. I think they're more powerful than MI5, especially in stuff like this. Back to that later. Here's another clue. Bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones are pairs given at Wikipedia as Colin Rees and Jill. Jill what? We don't know. Is that Jill the first name or maiden name? We are told just Jill. Turns out Diana's grandmother was named Ruth Jill, daughter of Colonel William Jill. The Jills link us to the combines to the Forbes of Boyndely and Monmouth, thereby linking us to the Keefs. It's page 3. Linking us to the Keefs, Kerrs, Carnegies, Onbrits, and Morrisons. The Morrison link up to the Maitlands, Stuarts, Duffs, and Gordons. Sorry, let me carry on here. Gordons. Ruth Gill married a Roche, Baron Fermi, and the Roche were really Fizz Edmonds. They link us to the O'Grady's, to the Pagets. Sounds a bit like the Paget report. On the report, I mean, we've seen inquiries about the Diana death. Psyop. Earls of Uxbridge, which is interesting since the Paget was he mentioned it. No, thanks for that. Miles. Since Paget was in control of the Diana investigation in England, see Operation Paget, we are never told either where it got its name. I mean, this is really good stuff. This is. I mean, when I first seen this website, I thought he's just off his rocker, chatting shit, but he's not. Because this is what he says. I assume Paget was controlling its outcomes. Paget's also the markers of Angel. I'm glad he highlights these things. Angle C, among other things. Also curious is that if you go to the Hastings Laws Library online for a copy of the Paget report, upon clicking the link, you're taken to an empty page at the government website. The Pagets then link us to the horrors, which is exclusive ill ties against Diana story. One of the boyfriends of Diana said to have been Oliver Her, so he was yet another cousin. See how they're interrelated, are they? On her father's side, we find Diana's grandmother was a Hamilton, daughter of the 3rd Duke of Abercorn. So if you thought Diana was a falsely lower rank than Prince Charles, you were wrong. Now this undoubtedly, I mean, for some reason, I've not heard anyone say this. Maybe David Icke pointed out is a lineage, but he concluded she was killed. But her background hasn't been stressed enough. She is from 7 lines of dukes. Again, she's not who she says we're led to believe. She's also a Borring or the Baron bankers. The 6th Earl Spencer had married a Borring in 1887. They all listed the Seymours, the Fitzroys, the Somersets, and the Walpoles. The Fitzroys are also dukes. So the 3rd Duke of India is in Diana's recent lines. Lots of dukes. The Somersets are dukes of beautiful, making 4. The Hamiltons link us to the Gordon Lennox, dukes of Richmond, making 5. They also link recently to the Russells, dukes of Bedford, making 6. The Russells quickly link us to the Levison Gowers and Manners, give us more, making 8. The Cameron, I'll just put the heat on a bit, make 9. Let's return to Rees-Jones. His injuries don't match the story. We're told his face was crushed, required total reconstruction. He's using all foot as a reference. 100 pieces of titanium were used to hold the bones together. Nevertheless, his face never looked that bad. It was only back to normal with a year. Really? Does it look like someone who had a face completely rebuilt from photos? Not to me, but here's what it looked like in his 20s. Amazing, his face was crushed, but his nose suffered no damage at all. His mouth suffered no damage at all. His jaw was supposed to have required major reconstruction, but we see no sign of damage. The only damage is slight is the left eye. And quickly mention, before I go on with it, there was a link on the website that I put on my bookmark. I might read that as well, but not in this video anyway. But maybe but at the moment I'm just concentrating on this. It could have been that could have been acquired before the crash during his time in the army. I'm talking about slight damage to the left eye. Also, curious, they have pictures of passengers before the crash. That's just a continuation of the joke, says Mathis. The driver's making faces. Yeah, he's making faces. Another Diana could be identified. Yeah, I've been thinking about this. On the one hand, we're showing pictures and it looks like them, but then you look back now, and I'm looking back now, you realise it's staged. It's all theatre. Could have been anyone. And by the way, Muhammad al-Fayed, if you want to know who he is, he was an arms dealer in the Middle East. A lot of his wealth, most of his wealth never came from him. It was given to him. I'm not sure by whom. I don't know if it was the monarchy in Qatar that gave him that wealth, or Mossad. I suspect he's connected to Mossad, because a lot of these famous Arab arms dealers seem to get connected to Mossad in some fashion. The driver's making it. Yeah, I've read that part. Do you really think the Pat Bursey was? Do you really think that was taken by paparazzi jar in front of them. I say it's staged. Why? One, because I've never seen a windshield that clean. That's a valid point. A windshield that clean. It's being shot through a bright flash, but we're not seeing one speck of dust. Not one blood spot or not one streak. Also, look at the hood. The car is supposed to have black Mercedes. It's looked brownish to me. Yeah, I can see a brown at the front, down at the bottom of the picture. Here's one from the same stage photo set. Yeah, it looks brown, not black. I found at the National Enquirer, I saw those pictures just before the crash. On report, the driver is wearing the same clothes and the same glasses. Supposed to be Diana in the back. But again, does the car look black to you? And look closely, Diana. What is blocking her view of the face? Isn't a review of the mirror seat? It looks like she's wearing a half helmet. Why? Now, I have done some geometry on, no, not this. I'm not like doing a synchronicity of the fake and a dev. I've just done like a decode on the geometrinator. Trying to find out trying to link her name to certain words and terms like fake death, and they do match. Also note, Rees-Jones I'm on page 5. Note that Rees-Jones makes us turn his head away to his left in every single photo in the set. Why? Because that hides the fact he's already had a scar over there. The reason the picture are from Wales, as we established, they are related to the Owens, the Morgans, and all the top nobles, noble families. We should also look at Baron Peter Innes Rees, died 2008, who married a Maxwell. A Maxwell I've not read this part. I've read the other parts of this. A Maxwell. That sounds like Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell. He was chief secretary of the Treasury in the 80s and was a privy councillor. The peerage lists no children for him. I would guess he's another relative of the Rees-Jones. Also, don't forget Martin Rees, Baron of Ludlow, who we have seen on my science site. He is a British astrophysicist and constant salesman of mainstream physics, involved in the promotion of gravity waves. I've shown you before that he was a president of the Royal Society and still a knight and a board member of the IAS in Princeton. Nothing is known to him. I think my car's warm now. No parents listed as at Wikipedia or anywhere else. If you study the Rees family in the period, we find that they were formerly baronets related to the Viscounts Montague, the Barons Dormer, the Turpins, the Cecils, the Neville, the Virtue. Okay, I think that's a bit too much for me to read, but I hope you guys can look at that. This guy is, this proves beyond a doubt. It proves without a doubt that she was not a rebel. She was a manufactured person. And it's the idea that she was just a fucking actress, is what she was. Sorry for my swearing, but she was an actress. This is what they do with these people. They build them up as rebels, but then they decide to, the best way to take them out of the spotlight is to fake their deaths. People don't consider that possibility. That's one way to take them out, is just to fake their deaths, so they just live quietly. Also see William Mace-Mogg, Baron of Hinwick Blewett, editor of the Times, member of the BBC Board of Governors, chairman of the Arts Council. Again, this is Jacob Rees-Mogg we're talking about here. Director of General Electric Company, famous company in America, from 81-97. You can see how he might be helpful in controlling the Diana story. So the mainstream media is not free, nor is it questions things. It's all controlled. And Jacob Rees-Mogg, for those who don't know, he's in government. He's the leader of the House and Lord President of the Council by Boris Johnson, despite or because of his being a Rothschild bank and Lloyd George brat. I like that word, brat. Yeah, they are brats. He's basically a mole from the hedge funds, especially his own company, Somerset Capital. It's also almost impossible to believe, because I'm running out of time soon, He's been charged with conflict of interest. Expect that his business as usual in the UK and the United States. There's no oversight bodies left. No. So who would charge him? Despite being completely unappealing and hugely unpopular, somehow he keeps advancing. Also, business as usual in the modern world. The keeper you are, the more upwardly mobile. Also, Sophie Rees-Jones, who married Prince Charles' younger brother Edward. That's the same name, different spelling. She looks like a Diana, not because they are the same person, but because they are close cousins. And what page are we on? 6. Okay. Looks like I'm gonna. Sorry. Let me just. Okay. I'm on page. This is page 6. I am talking about. So I'm gonna have to leave it there. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time. So I'm gonna have to. I will revisit this again. Hopefully later on I can finish this off. So see you guys soon.